Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Hello and welcome to all my brothers and sisters in service. I am Marty Smith, and this is the Swearing In Podcast. Today is part 3 of my interview with General Petty. He starts off by describing what it was like returning with his battalion from deployment to Iraq in August 2007. Then he left command to become the branch chief of standards and training for the Colorado Army National Guard. Later, he was promoted to full colonel and took command of the 89th Troop Brigade. After command, he became the chief of staff for the Colorado Army National Guard, and as he was preparing to retire, he received a call that he was selected for Brigadier General. He was promoted in 2014 and sent to Sarajevo, Bosnia, as a NATO Commander. So there's your pre-brief on part 3 for General Petty. Now, let's get on with the interview. Sir, we left off with you taking command of the battalion. You got orders to go, right? Your battalion was not multi-service. What do you call it when it's active duty, National Guard? Did you have reserves as well?
So, yes, Marty, it was a composite battalion, but it was mostly National Guard. This was a general, and I think I said this last time, it was a General Support Aviation Battalion, a GSAB. They're still in existence. You know, aviation was changing so much.
Let me ask you real quick. We had when I was in artillery, we had 3 classes. You had direct support, you had general support, then you had general.
Yes.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But you were a core asset, or you were kind of a swing asset, or you were direct support.
I remember the doctrine. Yes.
Was aviation doled out in a similar manner?
No, it's not the general support was not the doctrinal term like a fires brigade or something.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't. It was the reason it was called general support, as I think I mentioned last time, and why there wasn't enough of these to go around in the wars is because it had full medevac capability. My GSAB actually had 2 full medevac companies.
Wow.
So that's at the time that was 24 Blackhawk medevac.
Wow,
Blackhawks. That covers most of Iraq, by the way.
Yeah.
So we had that. We had regular, what we called a command aviation company, which never really functioned that way. It was a Blackhawk company to do Blackhawk things. And then there was a Chinook company with, at the time in Iraq, we had 15 Chinooks. Now, you can imagine if you're a theater commander, a division commander, or anything in between or below, you want one of these.
They want that asset.
I can do air assaults. I can move supplies. I can do medevac, which of course I have to do, or I have to shut down operations in theater. So you want a GSAB. I mean, attack battalions are great. They're sexy. They blow things up. Awesome. Regular line units of assault battalions that have just Blackhawks. Awesome. Great capability. But when you can put it all together in a battalion and call it a GSAB, you got a mini cab. You
didn't have any attack.
No attack.
Okay, so everything else.
This is why it was called general support, because of those 3 things.
Wow.
But it's quite a capability.
And then you have all the log train that goes with it.
Yeah, it's a big log train. Yeah, I was always amazed at the Connex requirement for moving this battalion around.
Yeah.
Not only do you have to load, literally, I forget the numbers because they actually fluctuated, but you're loading everywhere you go. You're loading between 40 and 50, or I think at one point we had like 60 helicopters in this battalion. You're putting all those on a ship, so 60 helicopters.
Wow.
I mean, it's typically probably 40, but like I said, it went up and down. So you got 50 or whatever helicopters, and then you have I forget the number of Connexes. It was like 35 full-size Connexes. Wow. just for maintenance gear
Sure.
and all the things you have to do. It doesn't count vehicles, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
a monster. Yeah.
And that was all your command.
Yeah, it was all my command. It fluctuated between this I'm pulling out a little bit because I've got the numbers from the deployment, but it's between like 500 soldiers and 800 soldiers.
Okay.
So I had companies added to me and subtracted to me. I had a company from the 101st that was plugged into my GSAB. I mean, this was the
Wow.
the interoperability that the Army was looking for. So active duty units worked for guard units worked for active duty units. Didn't really matter. Everybody was.
That's the way it's supposed to work.
That's the way it's supposed to work. And
And
for
then
the most
all
part,
the
it
little-
actually.
all the little conflicts along the way.
Yeah, it does. And we talked about this last time, that cultural
Oh yeah.
friction between
Yeah.
the active duty and the guard, and it's we discussed this. It's natural. I had it when
Sure.
I came in the guard. You
Right.
remember this, and so you're never going to make that go away. But by the time you're in year 3 of a war, which we were in year 3, we were in year 2.5 of Iraq.
Yeah.
You better, your guard units have spun up. They have spun up and they've gotten serious. And as I told you last time, a lot of the old, the guys that were just, collecting a drill paycheck, they're gone because they realize
they don't want to be.
Yeah, they don't
wanna
want
be
to. They don't want to train hard or go to the field.
Yeah.
So as soon as this stuff's real, the guard is spooling up pretty quickly anyway.
Right.
So by the time you train and you get to deploy together, it's pretty darn close.
Right.
And as I said last time, the guard is the beneficiary of so much aviation talent. These guys are all pilots, and mechanics full time. So you've got all this great experience. So yes, it works. It works.
You went
well.
did you have command of this as a lieutenant colonel or full bird colonel?
I don't know, lieutenant colonel.
Okay.
It's still a battalion command. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year did you
it was
go
a
over
monster.
there?
I took command in 05 and I went over in 06.
All right.
Yeah. And hopefully we can go into the detail of the story if you want to do a separate
Absolutely.
podcast on
Absolutely.
this
And we
story.
covered a little bit last
we
last
did.
time.
And I think it's a good story because of the height of the war, who we worked for in theater, which I told you, this task force. That's General McChrystal's term, the task force, so I can use it.
Really?
And so it's an interesting story, and a lot of the lessons along the way, and the guard active duty issues. I think it's a good story. And the best part of the story is, I still can't believe it, I didn't lose one soldier.
That's amazing.
Yeah, 6 helicopters were shot down while I was there.
Wow.
2 of them were mine. Didn't lose one soldier. So it's a good story.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. So
how long was the deployment? Or how long was the tour, I should say?
Yeah, if you ask my wife, it was 20 months because I left for Fort Hood in February of 2006.
Okay.
Got to, leaders recon, stuff like
of
that.
course,
Obviously, I'm a
right.
commander. I'm going to deploy longer and do other things. No problem. The deployment itself in Iraq was a year. But we had the awesome benefit of being the first combat aviation brigade ever to mobilize out of the National Guard, ever.
Wow.
So, as I said last time, and I hate to repeat this because we're saying
No,
a lot,
it's a very good point.
but as I said last time, because we were the first ever cab coming out of the Guard for a deployment, we got all the help we needed from Mother Army. All the help we needed, which I'm saying very sarcastically, as you might pick this up. Some of it was good, but a lot of time, I'll be honest with you, my soldiers were so frustrated because in aviation, there's a lot of specific mission planning gear, mapping software, electronic knee boards, all these things. And all we're doing is training up the active duty guys so they can pretend to evaluate us. That was frustrating.
Yeah.
That was frustrating.
Huh.
Because our guys know this stuff. They've been using it for, a while. And these guys are like, I haven't flown in a couple years, but I'm an aviator. And so the Army sent me to evaluate you. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Right.
Now I understand the Army is required to validate,
of course,
what we used to call green training.
Yeah.
React to contact.
Yeah.
conduct a, not, I won't say dismounted patrol because that's not a common task, but, do a hasty checkpoint, right? All those green Army training tests, common soldier stuff. And that was okay. I mean, it got a little repetitive. It got a little monotonous. It was too long. But we can talk about that all you want. I had some real critique of the Army's mobilization process and validation process.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was frustrating. My soldiers were at Fort Hood for 6 months before they got to deploy. I'll never forget that one of the things that actually surprised me, I kind of knew it was coming, but it surprised me anyway, is as the plane is taking off, the charter flight from Fort Hood Airport, I forget what the name is of the field, but anyway, we're at Fort Hood. Yeah. We get on the charter flight at the Fort Hood Army Airfield. And as soon as the wheels lifted off, there was a thunderous applause and cheering.
We're out
of
that.
So these are soldiers who want to go to war. They want to do their bit.
Yeah.
They've been training for it. They signed up for it. They want to go serve their country. And for 6 months, they've been, some of it legitimate. I'm not complaining. The Army has requirements. I get it. But after 6 months, they're like, yes, we're finally actually going to go do what we signed up to do.
Right.
It was a little tough. Got to be honest.
It's whatever their checklist is before they let you go, because we had that similar thing for the Gulf War, where we had to train up our National Guard roundout brigade for months.
And you have some experiences that offer a different perspective.
But we never knew, okay, when are we ready?
Yeah.
When are we ready to go? So, but the war was over before we ever got to go. But at least...
You and I both know there are some, and I'm sure there still are today. I mean, the Guard's not some miracle. Just like on active duty, there's some units that need some real work, and they got some bad
of course,
leaders.
Right.
Well, the Guard is the same way. So I don't begrudge the Army for a validation process. I would do the same thing.
You
have to, right? So I get it, but it was just too much.
But at the same time, there are certain specialized Guard units that know what they're doing, like aviation.
You would think we could apply some analysis to this problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the Guard is that your pilots are still flying.
Yeah.
Whereas active duty went to another assignment, came back, maybe haven't flown in a while, like you said. Right. So your real expertise is your Guard guys who are
doing it every day,
applying it, have never gotten out of it.
That's right, doing it every day.
So
some of them at this point had been doing it since Vietnam. I had a few Vietnam vets deploy with me. Obviously, they were the most senior CW4s and 5s.
Right. Yeah.
But these guys have been doing aviation for a while. They know what they're doing.
Wow.
So anyway, it's a longer story.
Yeah.
The whole deployment is a good story that I'd love to share with you.
When did you get? Can you describe when you got orders to rotate back? Do you remember that point?
Well, I have it written down. I did keep a pretty good journal, which is why I am going to write this book that we talked about. We knew we were on a 1-year rotation. Yeah. And in Iraq, and I don't know if they did the same thing in Afghanistan, but you had a BOG memo, boots on the ground memo.
Okay.
A lot of your listeners that went through it will understand that the BOG memo, when it was approved and when your commander signed it, that he had 100% accountability in Kuwait, as we're bringing aircraft off the ships and, all the stuff. And of course, you got to do a whole nother round of training in Kuwait, which, I get.
Of course.
I get. And actually, some of that was good. The flying part was good because you're exposed to absolute desert, pitch black, brown-out landings. It's a different environment. That's why helicopters just decide to crash in the middle of the night in the desert if they had a little visibility problem or dust storm. So that stuff was good. We cracked some windshields on helicopters with rocks, and because you've got to practice or you're going to kill people.
Yeah.
So that was good, but I digress. The BOG memo, boots on the ground. Once that's officially signed by the commander, you're all present and accounted for in Kuwait. Your clock starts.
Okay.
So it was one of those other applause lines. It's like, hey, we signed our BOG memo today, so all the soldiers know. Okay, our clock started. We're here for a year.
Yeah.
Which I got mixed feelings about that, but I'll tell you, as a commander, it was a benefit for me because my soldiers knew that they're going to go home in 1 year. It's like, you're going home safe to your loved ones, but the only way is through Iraq. We're going to kick ass,
Yeah.
But now we've at least started your clock, right? It's motivational.
Right. Right.
Because you're sitting in Kuwait. It's pretty miserable.
How was that last month?
It was hard.
To keep people sharp, I
Yeah,
would imagine when you see 29 days, 28 days.
Actually, it was
27
harder
days, right?
than you probably could imagine, because this unit, as hopefully we'll get into another time, this unit was on the gas pedal, full throttle for.
You were mentioning
for
you
12
were
months.
tasked all the time.
These guys were wrung out. They had given everything.
Yeah.
I mean, maintainers, pilots, long days, hot days, long nights. It was all mission. It was all mission.
Right.
Not many of my guys were going to the salsa dancing night at Balad Airfield. They were freaking working.
Sure.
So yes, come month 9, 10, and 11, I actually started to get worried, because I could see.
Because now you're close.
I could see how tired they were.
Right.
And the op tempo was
right.
not going to slow down. No freaking way. So that was my biggest fear. We always talked about complacency and all the things commanders do, but they were tired. They were tired. I could see it.
God, that would be such a tenuous time, because, like I said, you can see the window.
Yeah.
You're tired.
Yeah.
But
And they're flying.
wow,
These are dangerous tasks.
the likelihood of making a lazy mistake or missing something, or
It was scary.
Goodness. And especially as a commander, you're like, let's just
right,
get
because you
home.
own it all, right? Every accidental discharge, you own it all. So yeah, I was very concerned, and all I could do was manage crew rest as appropriate. Aviation has a good system for that. People love to make fun of it, but you do not want to be making fun of that when you're in the back of some aircraft at night and it's the pilot's 5th straight day of hot, long operations, because you'll be dead. So we took that seriously. But it's about all you can do, and just remind people and look in their eyes. And, crew selection was my number one risk mitigation measure as a commander throughout the entire operation. Crew selection.
I look forward to asking you a ton of questions.
Yeah.
You're trooping a line. What were your XOs like? What was your battalion staff like? But we'll save that, because we're going to burn it all up.
That's right. We're going to burn our time again.
All that
we don't want
time
to do
up.
episode 4.
But you made it without losing a single soldier. That's fantastic.
It reaffirmed my faith in God. I will make no apologies to anyone listening that doesn't believe in God. That's their business. But this reaffirmed my faith, because there were so many close calls. I almost had 3 or 4 mid-air collisions over Baghdad, or going into an LZ in the pitch black of night, and a Chinook is like drifting across my front 2 feet from our rotor blades. It was that kind of. Oh yeah, and by the way, bullet holes coming into helicopters, that we would analyze the trajectory of a bullet after it came through a Black Hawk, because you want to see what's happening.
Yeah.
And it's like, God dang, I can't believe that didn't kill anybody. That was 2 inches from a pilot's head.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it was just one of those years of like, oh my God, how did we do that?
I would imagine.
So divine intervention for me.
Sure.
Now, we did some smart things as leaders and soldiers, right? We did a lot of smart things. A few of them I'm actually quite proud of.
Well, I would imagine.
But we could talk about it.
I would imagine that in general, you'd probably rather be flying than waiting back. Right?
Yeah, definitely. The soldiers were doing what they signed up to do.
Yeah.
And that means everything to a soldier. You know that.
Yeah.
You can accept risk.
Rather be in the game.
You'd rather be in the game than on the sideline wishing maybe you could have been in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or listen to the radio.
Yeah. It's hard not to sound like, to non-military people, I know this sounds weird, but if you're a soldier, it's not like you're a warmonger. I don't want to ever kill anybody or anything. I don't want to. But I've been training for this for my whole life. And I'm in the game.
Yeah.
I want to be in the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple for a soldier to understand that.
Sure.
So that's what it was.
Where did you come back from? Where did you deploy to? Or redeploy from?
Okay,
Did
so
you go back to Florida?
we got lucky. We engaged our state leadership, our TAG, our 2-star, and they have the authority back here. Obviously, the Army gets to decide where we demob through. But they worked some special magic with Guard Bureau, who worked with ForceCom, as ForceCom controls this stuff.
Yeah.
And we got to demo back through Fort Carson.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which
that's
really
great.
was helpful.
Yeah.
Why send soldiers back to Fort Hood when
No point.
75% of them live in Colorado? Well, 60% of them live in Colorado.
Well,
anyway.
and all your equipment's coming back here.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. So the Army was smart. They let us demo through Fort Carson. Families got to come reunite a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
Which was nice.
Yeah.
Also frustrating. Well, my wife would tell you a story that our charter plane's landing at Peterson Air Force Base, which is, Fort Carson's basically airport.
Yep.
And we're getting off, and, the leaders of the state are shaking hands, and, there's wives and stuff in the background. You can hear on the video recorder, like, screaming, hey, yay,
Right.
A classic.
Just like a movie. Yeah.
Classic welcome home scene. And here's my wife. She's like the commander's wife. And she can't even get on to the tarmac to hug me or anything. Still bothers her to this day because they kind of locked us down, took us to buses, took us to the site. It's like, oh man, that was kind of a misfire.
Absolutely.
These spouses have been like,
right,
almost makes me too
yeah. They've been waiting, and you want that movie return.
Yeah, that was a misfire.
Yeah,
that would have cost us 15 minutes to let people hug.
Right. And you always wonder where those decisions get made or avoided.
Yeah, that wasn't mine.
So, how much longer before everybody was kind of let back on to traditional guard status?
It took us about, this is just from memory, so I think we had to be at Fort Carson for about 3 days, just going through the medical review and the equipment turn-in, because we had signed out a bunch of TA-50 from the Army, not necessarily the Guard. There was special requirements for aviation that we got issued at Fort Hood.
Oh.
That doesn't belong to the Colorado Guard. So we had to do stuff like that. And I think it was about 2.5 days, in barracks, open bays, all that stuff. And we had a nice ceremony at Fort Carson. They did put on a nice ceremony. It was a little smaller, but it was fine because after that we got to hug our wives and reunite with family. So that was really good. It happened the same day. It was
good.
Unnecessarily.
Right. Yeah.
So Fort Carson did a fine job. I really don't have any complaints except that first decision, which was weird. But other than that, we were out of there pretty soon, and then the Colorado Guard, put together the real welcome home ceremony. And they did it at the Air Force Academy
nice.
Field Auditorium.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. It was great. The soldiers came marching on out of the portals. I mean, it was great. I did some remarks. I told some stories about these awesome soldiers, and then we got to all reunite, and it was wonderful. And that was kind of the end of it. Now, after that, the soldiers got to go on leave, like right away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right away. And then we had to bring everyone back. I forget if it was like, because they were still on orders.
Yeah.
This was
their
earned
orders
leave. You know. And I think we let them go for a week. I think it was a week.
Well, because they want you to burn up that before you get off orders.
Exactly.
So.
And they want you to reunite with your family. Yeah. I mean, it's a big deal. These guys have been gone for a year.
That's long deployment.
These guys have been gone for 18 months. Everybody's gone for 18 months.
Because you had the 6 months at Fort Hood.
Yep. So 18 months. So yeah, they were gone for about a week, and you don't quote me on that. It might have been 4 days or whatever, but it was nice. Then they came back. We all met and did our own administrative demobilization kind of stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Equipment turn-ins and all that stuff for the Colorado Guard, which is the majority of the equipment and stuff. So that was important. And then we didn't drill again for, I think it was a month. It might have been 2 months, but I think it was only a month.
So they were off.
They were off for a while.
Orders,
I mean, they still had to go back to their jobs. These are guards.
Right. Yeah.
So they're still going back to their jobs, but they got credit for like a month without having to come to drill or duty, which was nice. It might have been 2 months, but I think the Guard also learned, and it might have been before me, but it was probably after me. The Guard learned you can't let them go too long without reeling them back into the mothership.
Yeah.
You're a soldier. You're part of a unit. You just went to war, and there could be a lot of issues. You might be drinking a lot right now. It's kind of like look them in the eyeball again.
Yeah.
So you can't let them go too long.
Yeah.
So we learned the hard way a little bit, but I think it was a month. I'm digressing.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
How long did you stay in command of that battalion?
We got back in the end of August of 07, and I changed command, I think, in early winter, like January, February of the next year.
Oh, really?
So I got a 3-year command.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Year and a half of that was total mobilization and combat.
This is exactly what you want.
But 3 years in command,
That's
I
awesome.
couldn't complain.
No.
Yeah, it's classic, right? Because we always talk, as at least I always said, a leader, sort of the first year you're kind of going through the cycle, you're learning. I mean, I know it doesn't work this way exactly because a good leader can't resist making some tweaks, but it takes a year to learn.
Right.
You got to go through the full business cycle,
right?
Whatever that is.
Well, sure. Yeah,
you do. The second year, you really implement your changes because you've observed, you've learned. And the third year, you get to kind of fine tune everything. Now, of course, it's never a perfect cycle. But,
no.
But to have 3 years is a dream come true.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Where'd they put you?
After that, I printed this out so you would just, I printed this out so you wouldn't catch me.
Well, you've done so much stuff. You need to. Yeah.
I mean, I was like, shoot, I forgot that date. Okay. Let's see. After I got back, I was assigned to the Branch Chief Standards and Training, Colorado Army National Guard. So every guard state has a safety office, basically.
Oh, okay.
And it's good that a lot of them staff it with aviators because the aviator culture is so steeped in risk management and all the things that go with effective risk management that it lets us have kind of oversight of the state safety program. There's always vehicle accidents. There's always, unfortunately, there's some helicopter accidents. There's Class A mishaps, dollar amounts, and Class B mishaps.
Right.
All that stuff has to get investigated. All this stuff gets reported. So it's not just this fluff job of, well, be safe, everybody. There's a lot of requirements with this. And so, this is not being in command. It's a staff job. You work for the chief of staff of the Colorado Army National Guard.
Right.
And you're accountable on the safety program. Yeah. And all the reporting requirements. And
it's quite a step down.
Yeah, it's quite a step down.
I mean, not to minimize the importance.
No,
that's quite a step down.
Yeah, it's quite a step down. It's a lieutenant colonel position.
Action-wise, it's quite a step
it's a lateral kind of assignment. Yeah. It's as we talked about before, it's a little growth outside of aviation.
Right.
Because I'm also appreciating the fact that, okay, I've got this aviation stuff down pretty good. I'm not God's gift to aviation, but I'm pretty experienced in it.
Sure.
And with this little ride that I just got, I'm pretty darn experienced in it now. It's time to probably learn something else. And so this exposes me to a whole bunch of staff requirements.
Well, and prior to you taking command, you had the commandant job. You had the civil support team, the
WMD response team. Yeah.
And now you have safety.
Now I have safety, which, I'm gonna give it my all. I'm gonna give it my all, do my best. But I mean, I gotta be honest. It's a little bit of a placeholder because I want to do the next level of command, like I think most good officers think. So I got that chance.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I got that chance a year later.
Now are you full-time guard at this point?
I'm full-time guard,
right.
which is a little more complicated actually. Right. If you're a traditional guardsman, it is a little easy to get promoted because there's only so many full-time billets in certain ranks and grades, right?
Right.
So like the entire state of Colorado with over 4,000 Army Guard soldiers has, I think it's 406 AGRs full-time. That's it.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And
and a long line waiting to get into those four.
Line waiting. Yeah. So it's hard. It's hard. So anyway, my point is that was probably part of why I had to shift over to the safety office, just because.
Give
I'm
some
a
time.
Full-time
05.
There's only so many 05 billets too, and I'm taking one of them. So I got to transition to that job, and it's personnel management at a different level because it's guard specific. So, but I did get an opportunity to compete for brigade command. That was my next big. That was my next big goal, because the aviation battalion falls under this brigade. This is a composite, classic guardism. This is a composite brigade of all warfighting assets. So you have the aviation battalion I just commanded. You have an MP battalion, which is deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan and Iraq again. You have Special Forces battalion, which, as you can imagine, very active in those two wars. You have a...
is that the 19th?
Yeah, 519.
Okay.
Yep, 5th to the 19th.
Yeah.
You have an infantry battalion, first to the 157th, with great lineage, by the way, part of the Dachau liberation, the Italian campaign, all that in World War II. So great lineage for the 157th. And then you have a space battalion. So you have these...
Oh, my goodness.
You have these 6 battalions that are all active, I mean, not active duty, but, active, engaged, op-tempo, deploying, redeploying. I mean, so my command, because I got the job, my command was a deploy and redeploy unit command. The wars were both running.
Yeah.
And these all units are in high demand. Even the aviation battalion got parted out again, unlike when we deployed.
But you never... Was that a brigade combat team? Or
no, it wasn't. And, that was...
But the concept is still kind of there, where you have many elements.
It's still a brigade. I mean, it's a brigade. It's, you're commanding 6 battalions, really, and they're complicated. Now, I'm not going to be an expert in the MPs, and I'm not going to be an expert in the Special Forces, but...
Well, you have experts
but I'm serious about being a commander, so I went out with these units. I went to their field training exercises. Hell, I flew to Germany once to observe the Special Forces in a live fire FTX, really good scenario. I was out there with them at night on the objective.
No kidding.
Here I am critiquing their approach to the objective at night because, hey, I'm a brigade commander.
That's your guys.
I'm an airborne ranger. I've got a little bit of credibility with these SF guys. I'm going to use it. And so I did do that. Yeah. Which is kind of unique. I mean, not everyone does that, because a lot of people are intimidated by, of course, these are Special Forces soldiers, and I'm an MP. I can't do it. Well, no, you can. You can
if you want to,
because what fundamentals are.
Yeah. But
you
there's
know what
that
training looks like.
There's that thing in your head is like, well, these guys will never give me the respect that
But
if you don't go do it, they definitely won't give you the
exactly.
respect.
You don't put your hands on your hips and say, I'm here and I'm going to help and I'm in charge and what. You don't do that. You just go and you learn and you make some observations and you're respectful, and we all want the same thing. We're fighting readiness.
Yeah.
Whether I'm an aviator or a Special Forces soldier, we all want the same thing. And I know what right looks like. You know what right looks like. I may not know every TTP on, foreign internal defense training, because I don't. I've never done it. That's an SF mission. I respect it. It's awesome. Yeah. I've never done it. I've seen it done. I kind of know what it, but I know fundamentals, right? I know what training's supposed to look like. Yeah. So I wasn't shy about getting involved.
Were you promoted to 06 before you took that brigade, or
yes? I think I was it was concurrent. I think it happened
Right,
because I got the job. Yeah. Because I was already eligible for promotion through the DA process. So I was DA. DA select, as we call it.
Now you just need the position.
Yeah, I gotta have the position. It's a guard thing. Yeah. And I got the position, thank goodness, and I really enjoyed that.
Where did you pin on full colonel at?
At the Joint Force Headquarters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a ceremony there, and my wife was there, my kids were there. It was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It was great, and I thought, my God, I never thought I'd be a colonel. I mean, I thought maybe like the young cadet at West Point. Yeah. Maybe a real stretch goal. Maybe I could be a battalion commander someday, right? I mean, that was my max horizon. I'm thinking that's like God back then.
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. When you're a cadet, like a captain is a god.
That's true.
Yeah, it's true.
The captain is yelling at you.
Yeah, we can't forget that. When you're young and in those academies or ROTC or whatever, a captain is God. It's like, oh my God, that's a real Army officer doing real good Army stuff. I want to be like him or her, whatever. So I never thought about anything beyond that.
No, that's
so
pretty
here I am.
High. Yeah.
Here I am pinning on the Eagle, which, by the way, I personally think is the coolest looking rank
Absolutely.
in the military. By
Yeah,
far.
absolutely.
So
Right.
I was just thrilled to death.
Right.
Yeah.
God, that's awesome. How long did you have command of the brigade?
Let's see. It was about 2 years, a little over 2 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was meaningful.
Yeah.
You know, you don't usually get a command more than 2 years. My battalion.
No, that's why when you said
I
3
wouldn't
years
have
as a
got that
battalion
if it
command,
wouldn't
but,
have been the deployment.
but the deployment, yeah, sure.
And then some stability coming back is a good thing.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people tend to scatter, and so having a
Yeah, if
commander,
you change command at that time, it'd be like,
it could be a problem. So that was all good. So yeah, I was excited. It was a great brigade command. And of course, if you become a brigade commander and you do well, that can open other opportunities for you.
Well, that's
Right.
that's your 2 checkpoints, right?
Yeah, that's right. And it was it wasn't a BCT, which ended up hurting me as a 1-star general. I got to be honest with you. But as a colonel, hey, you've commanded a brigade, and this is a monster. This is a monster brigade. Yes, it's complicated. Yeah. So no regrets. In fact, one of the things I'm proud of is this 89th Troop Command brigade, kind of administrative logistics, some training oversight, but because of all the differences, training oversight's a little more different for people that aren't willing to wade in. I was not ashamed to wade in. And so one of the things I'm kind of proud of is I actually took this unit to the field, the entire brigade, down to Fort Carson. Imagine that. Oh. Imagine the looks I got.
They're still
Sir, you want to do what?
They're still telling stories about it today.
Sir, you want to do what?
This old man SOB wants me to put my field gear on.
Yeah, and I'll give you the short version. I said, guys, we're a brigade. My job is to train you as a brigade staff. We still have to have some kind of muscle memory on going to the field, plotting, metrics on readiness, and are we black on ammo? Are we
right?
All that kind of stuff. Tracking sit reps, issuing missions, processing basic Army stuff in the field. I said, guys, we gotta go do this. Yeah. I have a brigade 3. I have a brigade 2. I got a 4. We're gonna go do it. So after the gnashing of teeth, and actually the battalion commanders were quite receptive.
Oh yeah.
Because we were actually going to make a scenario where everybody's playing together. Oh. It's easy to get infantry and SF playing with aviation, right?
Yeah,
that's easy. Right. You can create scenarios for that all day long. But then when you incorporate space, because the space capability was designed to support theater and division commanders. Yeah. So they had great assets. That could also be, trimmed down to a battalion commander. It's still meaningful, right? Yeah. It's intel, it's meteorological stuff, it's radio frequency stuff. So, and the MPs, we put this all together in a basic scenario, but it was exciting to watch.
Well, MPs got to know how to
secure the roads.
Right.
And they were doing all that stuff. So we actually got this monster in the field with all of the battalions and did no shit collective training for like 2.5 days in the field, which I don't think anybody had ever done that before. It was shock and awe, let me tell you. Yeah. But it was very rewarding, and I think it was cool, and all the people were like, this is what you sign up to do.
Well, true.
You want to go to the field, you want to get dirty, you want to be tired.
And nobody wants to come in for their drill and do computer training.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm actually kind of proud of that. It's a historical footnote, I'm sure, for the Colorado.
I would love to see the room when you proposed it, right?
I'm sure, but it really worked out surprisingly good. And it was night ops. It was complex stuff. I mean, LZs and PZs and a real objective and intel support, and the MPs were securing things, and it was synchronized. Yeah. And we even had a UAV overhead because Colorado has a UAV unit.
Oh, wow.
And that was coming into our brigade, as a matter of fact. Yeah. In fact, it was part of the MP battalion at the time. So we used UAV assets to recon the LZ. I mean, it was really threaded together nicely, and all the soldiers got to do their real mission in a field environment. It was great.
That's a hell of a brigade S3 you had to
put that plan together. He was good.
Wow.
He was good. Yeah.
That's a massive.
Yeah, we just it was good. Glad
what was the name of the brigade that you had? 89th Command.
89th Troop Command.
Okay, 89th Troop.
And I'll give you the interesting footnote: is the 89th Troop Command from the Colorado Army National Guard is the only unit referenced in, I believe it is Starship Troopers.
What?
I think it's Starship Troopers. One of these movies. You can't quote me on it, but I think it is where.
Huh.
Well, maybe it's not Starship Troopers, but one of these movies where the aliens come.
Yeah.
And the first unit on the scene is the 89th Troop Command. Yeah, I don't know where they picked it from.
That's pretty good.
But it was the 89th Troop Command. There's only one of them.
That's pretty cool.
It may not be Starship Troopers. I apologize, but it's one of those.
It'll be some obscure reference.
Yeah,
but
the
they
aliens
say it.
have. Yeah, it's in there. It's definitely in there. It was.
Who knows? Could have been an Independence Day. Could have been any of those.
Yeah,
right?
it was one of those kind of movies.
So you stayed there for 2 years. What are we looking at? Is that 2010 now?
This is probably. Yeah, I stayed there for 2 years, and then I got probably one of the most difficult jobs of my entire life. I was selected to be the chief of staff of the Army National Guard in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah, so that is a step up.
Yeah.
Now you're running the guard and the staff for the
everything.
2-star, who's my day-to-day boss, because I'm running a full-time workforce of 830 guys and gals in 35 facilities spread across the state, including aviation flight operations that are going every day and night, big motor pools and I forget what they're called now. They're sites where they're actually fixing vehicles, like overhauls and all that.
Oh, like depot maintenance.
Yeah,
or
like
stuff
depot
that.
maintenance level stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's all around the state.
Wow.
Like I said, 830 full-time employees. So, I mean, it's a full-time job.
Yeah.
New facility construction, all this stuff goes under the chief of staff. And then on the weekends, your other boss is the commanding general of the Army National Guard, 1-star. Running unit training and all that stuff that your normal staff would do. So this is the reason it was one of the challenges of my life, is because you're dealing with what your listeners would maybe understand is a full garrison command.
Yeah.
Because of what I said earlier with all the locations and legal issues.
Just scattered.
You're doing a garrison command, and you're doing almost like a division staff at the same time.
Right.
It's the same thing rolled into a staff. So I'm the 06 in charge of this for the 2 generals that I told you about.
Jeez.
So great job. I mean, you talk about learning how the guard runs at the state level. Now I'm one of the guys at the seat at the table all the time. But challenging, because all of the problems in the state that come to your desk cannot be solved by an 06. So they're always going to create division and resentment and winners and losers, and so that was just hard. Like Manning is always one of the big ones. It's the perennial problem. The active duty is taking away some of the guards' full-time Manning slots because they don't have enough money, and so these are expensive. So we're going to take some of your full-time Manning. Guard Bureau fights with the Pentagon, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, yeah.
And the end result is, okay, Colorado, you got to give up 2 AGRs. Okay, 105 and 104. Okay.
Those fights.
Okay, who's gonna give? Who deserves to give up a full-time employee?
Right.
When this is skeleton staff stuff.
Yeah.
The guard. 18% of the guard is full-time.
Yeah. Not much.
Not really much. So those were always difficult. I mean, we tried to create the most fair systems and transparent. And then the other issue that it was a little bit of my hobby horse, because it's a problem, is the few 06 control grades you have. As we talked about, there's only so many full-time slots. You have to now really plot this out on a spreadsheet so that the 05s know, okay, there's hope.
Oh,
Colonel Smith isn't going to be here for 30 years.
There's a path.
There's a path. And of course, the chief of staff is the only guy that really can be the bad guy. So I got to meet with the colonels. I got to come to an agreement on their retirement date. Sign the memo here. It's like, that wasn't fun.
So you
either.
are doing dirty work.
You're doing all the dirty work. And, some of it's really good work. I mean, you're trying to...
It's all important.
You're trying to create
You need
readiness.
somebody in there to make those decisions.
That's right. You're trying to create readiness throughout the guard.
Well, you ain't creating friends. That's for
No,
sure.
you're not doing friends. So it was challenging, actually. A really challenging assignment. Because it was just never easy problems.
No.
But it was great. Learning a lot.
How long did you do that for?
I did that for just about 2 years.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, so enough to learn it. That's
Yeah.
for sure. And then I'm getting ready to eat my own cooking and retire because
You've got to be about that time.
I've got 20 years of service, full-time service. I just qualified.
Yeah.
So I've been preaching to everybody else, hey, we're not guaranteeing you anything above 20. We got a lot of aggressive, good, deserving officers that need to get promoted.
Well, and there are a few licking their chops waiting for you to say that.
So
right?
I have to eat my own cooking. So I'm saying, this was my date. I'm over 20. I'm going to drop my papers and I'm going to report to Fort Carson next week for out processing, which I was doing.
Oh, really?
Yes, I wasn't at Fort Carson. Well, I might have been at Fort Carson. Anyway, I was in the process of retiring. No kidding. I mean, I'm in it. Meeting the requirements. It felt like a lot like Fort Hood. Let me tell you. I had some flashbacks. But so I'm doing my thing. It's going to take several weeks to meet all the requirements. And,
absolutely.
It's fine.
Yeah, right.
And so here's an interesting story of I tell the story to people that, it's weird how things work out in your life. There's always, you can always make little connections to opportunities that you get from maybe something you did down the road. So here's what I connect. So General Grass, who was the 4-star on the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chief of the guard. You remember the name General Grass? Maybe. Anyway, was. So he's on the Joint Chiefs. We got a seat at the table. He's the bigwig. He's the guy in charge of the guard. Mm-hmm. So I happened to be his chaperone as an 06 when he came to Colorado to visit our tag.
Oh, no kidding.
To see other things. He was probably going to NORTHCOM and how the generals do those trips. They try to get a lot of things in. And so I was his driver, chaperone, intelligent guy to talk him through everything. Okay. Right? Because he wants to know about training programs and readiness and all that. So you're not going to stick a lieutenant in there.
No,
with the 4-star. Not for this job. Not. Okay. So I was the guy. So I got to know General Grass for a few days. I'd pick him up at his hotel. How was your breakfast, sir? The good stuff. I was the, what do you call it? Not the chaperone, but the escort. I was his escort officer. Yeah, that's the word. And, at first I was like, oh, okay, this is great. But then I realized, you don't pass by those opportunities.
No.
So I got to know General Grass. He got to know me. We were talking in the car. I drove him to the airport, said goodbye. Hope to see you again someday, sir. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was point number 1. So point number 2, I wrote an article. I always tell my kids this. Hey, if you want to make a splash in your industry or your military branch, write an article. Yeah. Make it meaningful, make it relevant. I wrote an article for the Guard magazine, the National Guard magazine, which every guardsman reads, especially leadership. Yeah. It's a lot about readiness issues and issues with the active duty and legislation and all that kind of stuff. So everyone reads it. Well, my article was about basically the cost effectiveness of the guard. It was good analysis.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's like,
Interesting.
A guard BCT on average, unless you're talking full up armor.
Yeah.
A guard BCT or an aviation unit costs a third of what an active duty unit does. This is just basic math in a time of constrained fiscal environment. Which we always seem to run into, and it's going to get way worse, by the way. Why wouldn't you invest in the guard? I mean, obviously we need an active duty. We're not gonna compete. I say that in quotes. Right. We're not gonna compete with the 82nd and 101st. That's not the point. But for a third of the cost, I get a BCT. I can get an airborne brigade. Sure. I could get an aviation brigade. For a third of the cost. I mean, that really means something. So it was a very good article. It was packed tight. You know how to write. Yeah. It was very succinct and very logical. And so General Grass just happens to be on an airplane with General Edwards, who's my 2-star. He's my tag.
Oh, jeez.
And he puts the magazine down on his leg, sitting across the trail on some executive jet that the military loves to fly around in. And he says to my tag, "Hey, are you ready to lose this officer, this Petty, Chris Petty? You ready to lose him?" And Edwards is not stupid. He's like, "Yeah, of course. He's a good man. You'd be happy." And so, lo and behold, as I'm out processing at Fort Carson, opportunity knocks.
No
I get
kidding.
a call from General Grass.
Call.
Yeah, a phone call. Probably a week later, and General Grass says, "Hey, Chris, how you doing? Because again, now we know each other. Hey, Chris, hope I'm not catching you at a bad time. That kind of stuff."
Are you kidding?
No, sir. It's all good. What can I do for you? How would you like to pin on a star and go take command of the NATO headquarters in Bosnia? Okay, I'm out processing right now. No, of course. I said, "Sir, it'd be a great
wow.
It'd be a great.
That had to blow you away.
Yeah, and so the point of my story is it's those two things. It's the fact that I got to escort him, and I wrote that article, which is intellectually hit the mark for him. Yeah. It's like, hey, this guy. Not only did I meet him, but he's a thinker. I need guys like this, right? I mean, this is me making assumptions, but I believe in the connection of those things. I think so, and that's opportunity. So I was honored to accept, and then, now I'm going to get promoted to general officer, and when I'm out processing at Fort Carson, literally, but it was great. I mean, I had a new challenge in front of me. Wow. Here I am going to Bosnia in, basically it's, hey, and by the way, can you be ready to depart in 30 days, I think it was.
My God.
So I'm a colonel. I got to get promoted. I got to do the family thing. I've got to figure out where's Bosnia on the map. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well,
but I'm not kidding because I read books
a little bit about that.
Bosnia, right?
Yeah.
You've got to understand the history of that place.
Yeah.
But it was frenzied and exciting, and of course the family's happy. I mean, my God, we're gonna have a general.
Wow.
So obviously it was awesome, and I jumped at it, and it was a fascinating assignment. It was only a year, but it was. I mean, I was submersed.
Really?
Oh yeah. Being a NATO commander, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but being a NATO commander in a country like Bosnia is like being a combatant commander in a theater like Europe. I mean, you are when the ambassadors come, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant at all.
No,
but it's you're in a different universe because NATO is the reason Bosnia exists. NATO is the reason that the war ended, and so NATO is in such a position over there that even though you're a one-star general, which to us is like a dime a dozen walking around the Pentagon, not in Bosnia. You are you are NATO. You might as well be.
I would have thought it would be the other way around.
Yeah, it's weird.
That you're some small fish out there in the NATO land.
It's weird, and I wasn't expecting this. I mean, I was kind of. I mean, obviously, it's nice when you're the recipient of it. But for instance, when ambassadors post to the new country, Germany, Japan,
U.S. ambassadors, or
any ambassadors.
Oh, okay.
When any ambassador posts to his new assignment in Bosnia. He calls the NATO commander to set up an office meeting to come to my office to introduce himself. Okay, now, as a U.S. one-star general, that was quite a surprise to me, right?
So that's a little like, oh, geez, I'm supposed to do that too?
Yeah. You're eating lunch with the U.S. ambassador every week. You're NATO. You're NATO. And even though the mission has obviously changed over the years.
That always does, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still NATO. That is the big boy on the block.
You are repping NATO.
Yeah. And so it was really humbling really fast because I wasn't quite expecting that. Really. I mean, it was great. I knew it was going to be important, but all of a sudden I got to be honest, it's probably the U.S. ambassador is number one because I'm talking like the informal pecking order,
of course,
with perception.
Yeah,
in NATO,
of course,
in Bosnia, because the U.S. embassy has the money, programs, and all the good stuff. Yeah, but NATO's like number two. No kidding. Yeah, so it was interesting, eye opening, and of course I studied the history and I read the books, and not only about the conflict but the history. I mean, these tensions go back to
Bosnia,
they go back to the 1500s.
Right?
They go back to the
wow.
1500s.
Yeah.
And you can trace it directly through all of the wars to today. It's the same basic problems of Orthodox Christians butting up against Muslims, butting up with non-Orthodox Christians. I mean, it's really, that's really what it is. If you ever go to Sarajevo, you could literally see it on the street, like East meets West, and it's really cool.
Oh, you can.
I recommend
really?
it if you ever get a chance, because half of Sarajevo is like the Habsburg Empire, the same style of buildings, Austrian, like you're in Vienna.
Yeah.
And then your stark contrast, like a line on the street, is Muslim architecture, Islam architecture.
Oh, no kidding.
It's amazing. It's really cool, actually.
Huh.
So, I mean, it's a metaphor for the clash that's never truly been settled through 5 centuries.
Yeah.
It's still alive.
Yeah. There's many of those over there.
Yeah,
right?
really interesting. I used to say, it was a war that never was allowed to fight itself out. Like wars in the old days, they could fight themselves out, so they had a resolution.
Yeah.
I'm not making a moral judgment on like killing people and fighting it out. That's not my point. My point is, you froze a war. You froze a Cold War.
You just stopped the
then
fighting.
You didn't reduce the underlying reasons for the war.
No.
And so it's just kind of frozen until it bursts open again, like it sort of did in Kosovo.
Yeah.
Immediately following. So anyway, it was fascinating.
Wow.
Now NATO's role was mostly in the, you could sort of equate it to consulting work. I mean, very important consulting work, but it was like defense reform stuff. The European Union had EUFOR, European Forces.
Yeah.
They had taken over the QRF kind of responsibility from NATO years before I got there.
Oh, really?
So Europe owned that. So my counterpart was a 2-star Austrian general who I became good friends with because we shared basically the headquarters building. His staff's on one side, mine's on the other. So EUFOR was in charge of the QRF kind of stuff. Like they had a couple of helicopters. They had infantry troops.
Just enough to...
They could sort of quell...
To respond,
snap to a quick rebellion somewhere,
right.
and
to
work,
show presence.
And work it,
Yeah.
And NATO had evolved into the defense reform side of the business, which is how do we get you up to speed to become a NATO partner? How do we get your logistics system to be not corrupt and reliable? How do we get your training management programs up to speed where you actually can do more than just shoot a rifle?
Right.
You could do squad level, platoon level maneuvers. You could do a little combined arms stuff. So we were logistics, training, personnel. It was really like a cool consultant role.
Yeah.
And so I was meeting with the Minister of Defense like at least once a week.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, he was my primary contact.
Jeez.
Minister of Defense.
Yeah.
And the CHOT, the Chief of Defense, the general. So the civilian, he gave me a giant bottle of rakia when he left.
What's rakia?
It's the homemade liquor that they all do. Every family in Bosnia.
Also, it's different.
Has
a little
family
bit different
recipe for
yeah.
rakia, which is kind of like schnapps. In fact, it's related to schnapps, but if you've ever had like good schnapps, it doesn't taste anything like schnapps.
Right. Yeah.
So Americans,
not that we know.
Yeah, I don't want to confuse Americans with. It's not schnapps like you'd buy in a liquor store, but they call it schnapps. There must be a similar distillation process, but it's pretty hardcore. Sometimes you can taste that the derivative was plums, or sometimes you can taste that the derivative was some other berry, peach. I mean, it's good, but it's pretty strong. It's pretty strong. So he gave me this big green bottle of homemade rakia. It was just so cool. Classic, because he's really proud. This is my family recipe, probably hundreds of years. And that was his gift to me, as I've enjoyed working with
And
you.
that was the 2-star from, where was he from?
He was
What
from
country?
Austria.
Austria, okay.
Yeah, he was the commander of U4.
Well, let me get this. So you pin on General.
Yeah, in 14.
2014.
Yeah.
Where
I
at?
was sent immediately to Bosnia. Here,
Oh,
again,
here.
at the Joint
Okay.
Force headquarters.
And you move.
Yeah.
Did your wife come with?
No, unaccompanied tour.
Oh, for a
Unaccompanied
year?
tour for a year, yep. But at least I didn't have to spend 6 months in Fort Hood.
Well, or you're not in Korea either.
Yeah, that
so,
helped. That helped.
And it's all in Belgium?
Nope. So I have to fly to Naples first to meet my new boss. So NATO's divided up into different commands. There's a few different commands.
Oh,
in NATO.
okay.
Yeah, and I'm not going to bore.
Makes sense.
I'm not going to bore everybody.
I didn't realize that.
But the command in charge of call it the southeastern front of NATO, is out of Naples.
Okay.
So Bosnia's in that. All the other Southeast European countries are in that command, and that is theoretically a warfighting command.
Oh.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And so my boss is a 4-star in Naples. He's a U.S. Navy admiral. I have to fly to Naples on my way to Bosnia to sort of get commander's intent, all that good stuff, right? Hey, sir, tell me what you want me to accomplish.
Right.
How do you measure success, right?
Right.
What does success look like to you? What do you want me to do? Right? All that normal good conversation, right? You're flying into a theater, you're taking charge of something.
Yeah.
What does my boss want?
Your feedback session.
Yeah. So, in a tale that was not comical at the time, my flight over there was a disaster.
Oh.
Missed my flight out of Philly. Had to spend the night in Philly because of weather. It was just weather related. And then I get to changing planes in Paris. My bags got lost in Paris.
Oh, jeez.
So, I mean, it was a nightmare. And, you've got to realize that I'm a brand new 1-star general. I'm the little kid on the block. I'm going to meet with a 4-star. Like,
4-star still a 4-star.
yeah, it's still a 4-star. And, it's a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
And, for most people. And it's my new boss. I want to make the right impression. My bag's lost. It's like, oh God, this. And then when I get my bag, which I didn't have my bag to meet with my boss.
Yeah.
So I didn't have my uniform. I didn't have.
Oh,
so
no.
luckily, I wasn't a complete slob when I traveled. This is a lesson learned. Always look at least professional. At least in your carry-on bag.
Right. Don't wear your sweats on the plane.
Yeah, because if I would have walked into that first meeting with nothing but a ball cap and t-shirts and shorts,
your validity would
be really bad.
Yeah.
And so luckily, it was a lesson reinforced. Right, I could at least walk in with a sport coat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, but when I got my bag the next day after my meeting with my boss, it was drenched, soaked through and through. My nice army uniforms, my blues. It's like,
oh no!
Oh, it was just a disaster. And then I ended up, everything was okay. And then I flew to Sarajevo.
Oh, okay.
And reported in and met my staff. And,
so that's where you stayed.
Yeah. I was in
Sarajevo.
I was in a camp. I was in a NATO camp, which was a NATO U4 camp.
Yeah.
NATO actually kind of owned it though, as we started looking at all the rules and stuff, because somebody has to own it.
Yeah.
So NATO sort of owned it, but it was a very great relationship, no issue. But we stayed in a camp called Camp Bootmere, and it's like 20 minutes from Sarajevo.
Okay.
So it's a secure military base.
Yeah.
Wired fencing. There's a runway, all that stuff. So I mean, we had a good headquarters building, like a mini shopette. I mean, it was nice actually.
Right.
Yeah. Not a lot of amenities, but it was a gym. It was a mini shopette, little barber shop. I mean, it was.
Your housing was on that.
Yeah. I lived in my own little shack house, which was totally sufficient, but soldiers lived in barracks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
But there was a general officer quarter for the NATO commander. I mean, General Shinseki stayed there.
Oh.
He was the commander.
Yeah.
So that's good enough for me. No issue.
Were you the highest ranking American on there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was the highest ranking American in country.
Oh
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There was colonels at the U.S. Embassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought they would have.
Nope.
More.
There was colonels at the embassy. Typical.
Yeah.
A couple of colonels at the embassy. got along great. In fact, we're very engaged because a lot of his programs that were funded by U.S. Embassy were directly related to NATO membership and development, so we could get them to close the gaps on all the things I talked about.
Yeah.
So that was a great partnership.
Huh.
Yeah. Interesting. Just an interesting world. Just so different.
Well, you got exposed to it.
Yeah.
Most people don't. I don't know.
Yeah, and it was, you get a lot of inertia in a job like that. A lot of the staff, some of the full-time staff are civilians.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, they need a little inertia breaker. Like, I'm always happy to be that guy.
Yeah.
But I do my homework, I just want to do what the right thing is. So we kind of reoriented some of our programs that had sort of atrophied a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Like, why are we here? What are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
Little energy, maybe. And I think it paid off.
Huh.
I think it paid off. So, but again, some head scratching. Who's the new guy? Damn
Well,
it.
sure.
Damn it. Who's
Here
the
you
new
go
guy?
again. You got to prove yourself again, right?
Who's the guy upsetting the apple cart again? I never minded being that guy. I really didn't. I kind of like it, actually.
Well, I mean, you've shown results with it. So.
Yeah, and I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I do my homework.
Yeah.
Why am I here?
Well, and by now, you've learned that I think a lot of people want to have that direction. They'd rather have that direction than somebody who's easy on them, right?
They do.
So.
I even told young lieutenants growing up, I said, you may not believe me, but believe me, even your crusty old NCOs want a lieutenant that takes ownership.
Yeah.
Not tell them how to do their job. ask them for their advice and counsel. Be respectful. Treat everyone like you want to be treated. But they want you to be in charge.
Yeah.
They want you to take charge and be the commander, the lieutenant, the platoon leader. Don't shirk from that.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
See, that could be our number one lesson when we go into our series.
I used to love counseling young officers because I felt like I could give them something.
Well, world changed because I never got too much counseling.
Yeah, it's too bad.
So you stay over there in a year, you come back?
I come back
Another assignment, or are you finally retiring?
No, I'm not going to retire now because the Guard has me as one of their generals. And I just did a good assignment. That's a good developmental assignment. I'm overseas. It's multinational. I'm dealing with embassies and NATO and foreign countries.
You got purple all over.
Yeah, my staff was truly multinational.
Yeah.
I had Romanians and Hungarians. Even had a Spaniard on my staff.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it was really a great experience, but also educational.
Sure.
I learned. And learning how NATO works was very interesting. I mean, we could go on about NATO for a whole show.
Yeah.
It was different. NATO is, I'll give you the short version.
Okay.
NATO is all about your charter. It's all about the charter. I'm using the wrong term. There's a better term for charter. The easy thing is it's all about your mission, but it's not that simple. It's all about your written authorization.
What you're allowed to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like your reason for being, because it's very political.
Absolutely.
NATO is very political. I mean, at the time I was commanding, I think it was 28 countries. Now I think it's 30. But 28 nations getting together to try to compromise on what are we going to do in Bosnia with our money and our resources and our soldiers. It creates kind of a watered down mission statement, document, charter, as I'm calling it, but it's all about your charter. So don't try to get too creative. Yeah. And
you have limitations.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, as I would tell a younger Army officer in the U.S. Army, I'd say, get creative.
Absolutely.
Run with commander's intent. You know, kind of the end state. Run, go.
Accomplish a mission.
NATO's not that way. Yeah. It's very, very specific on these authorizations and these politically negotiated.
Right.
I'll call them
Don't
charters.
Step on toes.
Yeah. So you have to be a little careful. Anyway, that's probably my biggest lesson.
Some weird waters you got to know.
Yeah, it's a little culture. It's culturally different than the U.S. Army.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So you gotta wade through that a little bit and learn. You gotta be willing to learn, and I did.
Huh.
But that was a little bit of this is different terrain.
Wow.
That's okay.
And that's part 3. Sir, when we come back for part 4, we're going to hear more about the rest of your
Eventually, you're going to get really tired of me talking.
I don't think so.
But I'm enjoying it so far. It's in.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, let's schedule
Okay,
another time.
let's do it.
On behalf of General Petty, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, a thank you. Fola!